Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is your hosts, as always, Steve Hall, and on the other end, Pascal's got his ice cream on it's not always on, so it's a special occasion. It's because it's snowing outside, it's the weather.
That's the thing, I can't, so I'm right now under the rooftop where it's kind of a square here left to me, and what is it called, Steve? The roding curtains? The shutters, basically.
Shutters, yeah. Blind.
Yeah, the automatic blinds, they can't roll upwards anymore simply because they have frozen. So I'm sitting here in the dark the entire day, which is something that I don't really prefer if you're just like, as if you're, kind of caught in the dark the entire time. And that's why I have to sit here with the lights on.
You need to get like maybe a hairdryer and just like see if that
Funny enough, yesterday I tried this already and I failed. Second thing that I've tried is that I was seeking for kind of a water pistol from my kids that they are using in the summertime. I was filling warm water into it. And then from the other window that I was able to actually open up, I was then shooting over to the other blind in hope that it's actually then unfreezing, but it didn't really work out.
Oh God, yeah, that's okay. You've done the things that I would think to do. Maybe I can't even think of anything else you could possibly do there.
I'm just thinking that if a neighbor or just someone else would have seen me trying this and doing this, and I tried for like 15 minutes. Genius. 15 minutes to get it work, and I was just like shooting with a water pistol the entire time, like aiming, shooting, and it simply didn't work out, man.
It has got colder. In the UK at least over the last days, but no, we have no signs, like you were just talking off air, there's no signs of snow, or I think some people outside are like starting to like have to, shave the ice off their cars or whatever it is, which I'm glad I don't have to worry about. Imagine having to do Berlin that before right your morning commute.
Yeah, today is Wednesday when we're recording. It's supposed to actually, there's supposed to come like around 5 centimeters of new snow in Germany, or in Berlin at least, which to some listeners probably doesn't really sound like a lot. And for some other listeners, it sounds like a shit ton. And it's probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, for our standards, it is quite a decent amount of snow. And the kids, they love it, you know? Yeah.
Do they have they ever had a snow day?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's always what I remember hoping when there's a lot of snow, is just like, give us the day off.
Man, it was amazing. And I do still remember the time when I was very much young. I was, as you may know, Steve, I was growing up on a half island in the Northern Sea. And there was this one winter that was very cold. And there was this small little, I couldn't really remember what it exactly was, a small little lake. It wasn't really a lake, but it was frozen. And what actually happened was that many kids of the small village came together and we were playing ice hockey on it, which is something that is fairly exotic for people in our hemisphere, you know?
I know the only time I've seen that is I went to Canada with my family, and my dad's like friend lived just outside, I think it was Toronto, and there were like lakes purposely built they'd freeze over in the winter, and then they'd play ice hockey games on those lakes. I was like, that's so cool. Or lakes, ponds. Pond is too small. It must be a lake.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When I was growing up, I loved US, and probably you've been the same, Steve, because it was the 90s, and the 90s were the very much Hollywood glory days of the US, MTV and all that kind of jazz. And when it comes to also sports, basketball, NHL, and all that kind of stuff was just kind of, these were the things that I was growing up with. I was playing NHL on PlayStation 1 back in the days. And I always wanted to play ice hockey when I was young. And this was, of course, a dream coming true. But, of course, it only happened once, unfortunately.
I've never played ice hockey. We played hockey at school. I imagine you played hockey at school. Just with the ball.
But it was never really the same.
No, I loved it when...
So there was this kind of a youth club where you could go to like after school to spend a little bit of time. And we had some rollerblades there, alongside also with some hockey sticks. And what it is that we did there was, of course, putting on the rollerblades and playing a little bit of hockey like this. This, on the other hand, was actually pretty cool. Did
you have it, though, where there's always these kids, you give boys sticks and they're going to fucking smack each other. And I wasn't an aggressive child, but other boys definitely were. And fucking just like you'd have the ball and they'd just come in. You meant a tackle, right? They'd just be smacking your shins, your knee, all of this shit. I was just I wasn't that type of child. I wasn't aggressive. So I didn't like rugby. I didn't like contact. I liked and I was good at sports. So the bullies would just be hacking away at me. I ended up actually snapping cartilage in my knee because they smacked me in the knee. And yeah,
oh, wow. No, it never happened because that youth club, we also were part of a cricket team. So especially cricket, in the UK.
Of course.
And because of that, we were all kind of quite competitive and also at the same time had this sportsman character of like we took, even though that was of course all for fun when we did something like hockey, for example, there was still some kind of seriousness to it. We took it serious in the moment, and it wasn't that no one that everyone was bad at it or extremely good at it. There was a decent skill. Everyone took it seriously. And I think this is always a little bit more beneficial because if someone really is bad, it drags down the entire fun of the game, unfortunately. Or if there's a disbalance between the two teams, it's also no fun. And then I can definitely see why people are getting frustrated and angry.
Yeah, but it wasn't that sort of frustration and anger. It was just like little like boys can be fucking mean.
Oh yeah.
And aggressive. Like,
oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Katie is working in a school, and what she's telling me at times, it's just like, what the hell is going on?
This might shock you, it might not shock you. It depends where you are with, I don't know, things you've heard. This just popped into my head. But I can remember, again, boys would chuck rocks, like pebbles, whatever, into crowds, trying to hit people. Just like launching it and being like, oh, where does that go?
Yeah.
And one of them hit me, and like just below my eye. Like I was like, if that hit me in the eye, I don't even know what would happen. Like,
yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It's nuts what kids would do.
So we did something like this as well, and I have to admit that I was one of those kind of kids. I was a bully, also because I was a fat kid, and either I would have been a victim or I became a bully, and that's why I turned into a bully. Because I didn't really want to become a victim. And I was that kid as well, who was throwing around with shit and especially also rocks. Also, because we are at the topic of winter and snow, this is what we sometimes did with snowballs. We turned them into ice balls, right? So in melting them in your hands so that they become more like ice. And sometimes also putting some rocks in it and just throwing them. How mental. And of course, as a kid, you can't fathom the consequences of something like this. And most times it goes well and nothing really happens and no one comes to harm, right? But every now and then, probably someone gets massively hurt.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know, you take your life for what it is, but I was definitely more of the victim in many of these situations when I was younger. Man, if I think about me as a kid, it kind of makes me sad. Like I want to be there to like prop him up and be like, fuck these guys, like get a bit more about you. But I also kind of, I don't know, I had just a soft touch about me where I would stay out of harm. I wouldn't stay out of harm's way, but I wouldn't do as much harm. Not that I was perfect. Like I definitely did some stupid shit when I was drunk and things. But
But Steve, if it gives you a little bit of solace, I feel the same. I have the same sentiment when I look back at my childhood. Because I was mean. I was just mean most of the time. Also, when I was growing older, the way that I talked to other people that were just nice, lovely kids most of the time, how I've treated them and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm even thinking that's not happening so often, right? But especially in my youth, adolescent years, I've mistreated other people. Also kind of teachers. And I would love to have the chance to just go to them and say, like, I deeply regret what I did when I was young. I was a fucking kid. I'm sorry for that. It doesn't really justify what I did, what I said to you, but I just want you to know that I'm sorry because now being able to reflect upon how you grew up and how you behaved and treated other people, it was freaking inappropriate. And I think that just telling someone that you're sorry is is already goes a long way. But to be fair, many of the teachers that I had when I was young, I think that they are so old that they already passed away, unfortunately, or they are getting to the point where they are just, they don't even bother at all anymore.
Yeah, it's actually, that makes you feel quite old, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unless you had some young teachers, and then they probably got it even worse.
Yeah, I had some young teachers, but especially where I grew up, most of the teachers that I had were already kind of in their late 50s to early 60s.
Okay.
And that's why you have to be realistic. They are probably not longer around.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny. Not that I'll talk about it too long, but I think it was, again, the Modern Wisdom podcast. He's had a few people on talking about like bully dynamics, and it just made so much sense as I heard about it to why I was the one who ended up getting bullied.
For real?
Because it was kind of like the bullies often don't try and bully like the lowest of the low, because it's almost like, I think it's to a point, it's like, what's the point there? They try and bully someone who's on a similar level, but like easy prey in a sense, so they can like look better than them. So like I was good at sports like as a kid, but like, so it was, but I wasn't like alpha or anything like that. I was very much a soft touch. So it just like was easy to kind of prey on me in that sense. I can't remember more specifics than that, but it was just interesting to be like, yeah, I wasn't an easy target in terms of like, I wasn't like yourself. I wasn't like way overweight or like a real, like, I don't know. I didn't have any problems. I don't know, like my eyes weren't normal. Like I have no physical impediments, you know what I mean? Like an easy prey. I want to not say something like wrong in that sense, but like I was like normal, but like pretty decent at some stuff, but also just easy because I didn't really retaliate or anything like that. So
yeah.
Anyway, besides the point, it's long in the past, but I do think it's played into me, like probably for you too, like everyone's childhood plays into them as an adult. And I definitely see that. And I'm like, I still wish it didn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the not funny thing, but the interesting thing is I've told you about that. I like to listen to also true crime podcasts, and nearly all of the people who are committing those heinous crimes have some kind of past, like certain past where they've been victims themselves by the parents maybe, or they have seen something that they shouldn't have seen that traumatized them, and something most of the time happened during their development as a kid that then led to that kind of outcome. And sometimes it can even be something like a brain injury, right, where they've been falling onto a certain kind of spot and damaged some kind of things in their brains that then led to a discrepancy of right and wrong and empathy and all that kind of stuff.
Why have I forgotten? There's a number of Netflix documentaries that are like this, and I think was it Epstein? No, not David Epstein. That's someone completely different. What's his name? Fuck. It was a really popular one, and he's like watching. He gets his victims to like watch this movie, and he drugs them, and there's been loads of memes made of it. And he's got blonde curly hair.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
That's the one, Dahmer. Yeah. Which is it's entertainment on Netflix, and it's an enjoyable show. It's a horrific thing that he did, and yeah, it's kind of hard to reconcile that. But like his upbringing, at least the way they introduced it again, they made it like you can see how he went the way he did because of how he was brought up and how his dad kind of did some certain, like, I don't know, they like killed animals and took them apart and stuff, and like so he got really into that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. We can be lucky that it didn't really took us down that path.
Yes. Neither of us had done it.
And people don't know.
That's true. You only see what you want us to. People only see what you want them to see, right?
Yeah, exactly. How are things going on your end, Steve? Training-wise, nutrition-wise?
I saw actually on your story that you, on Instagram, you just saying how you're having some of your kind of traditional or common back issues.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I had my own, but out of freaking nowhere, and I don't know if any of the listeners can relate to this, or even yourself, Pascal, I've had no back issues for a while, and even now and then, like I get a little bit, my lower back feels a little bit like, oh, like I know it's nothing too bad, but like I just have to be careful bracing. But I had none of that, Sunday was a rest day. I just did like a bit of work on the spare room for where you're going to stay. So I was putting together like a sofa bed and stuff, which I did put my body through some awkward positions and stuff, but everything felt fine. And then on Monday morning, just woke up and I was like, severe stabbing pain through like my back and hips. And I pinpointed it to like an SI joint to the lower left side. And I talked to, it's actually really great having Mike just available, Mike Chalice, who is our coach and physio on the team, just to be able to just message him and tell him your symptoms, and he'd come back to you. And basically he just gave me confidence that I could continue to train and gave me some exercises to do. And it just seems that it has improved a lot. But if I needed to train, if it was legs on Monday, I wouldn't have been able to do it. There's just no way. Because it just sat here, it's a little bit uncomfortable on my back. I can feel it. I even stood and walking, I can feel it. It's aching. But I was doing like behind the body lateral raises, and those, like as I came behind my back and any like slight twist of my torso, like stabbing pains, like they were quite painful. But thankfully, it improved a lot to Tuesday, so yesterday, and I had legs. And Mike was like, I think you could probably train legs. You might have to modify something. It may even make it better. But as I was going through my hack squats, I'd considered like pre-fatiguing my quads, doing higher reps, and I was just like, I had a number in my head I wanted to hit for hack squats. I was like, if I hit this, I'll be super happy. And I was warming up. I felt good. And it went okay. So I managed to, I got 4 sets of heavy hack squats done, and my whole leg session done. And it doesn't feel worse for it. Today, it doesn't feel much better than yesterday, but hopefully it continues to improve. And as long as I don't twist, it doesn't really cause me too much of a problem. And thankfully, bodybuilding is very much like up and down, back and forth, not so much twisting movements. So I think I'll be okay. But if I like tried to do a sport, there's no way I'd be able to do that. So yeah, not ideal, but it's also one of those which is funny because I always say like I do 5 weeks of training. Week 6 is like whatever I try and do, unless I purposely extend by adding rest days in, week 6 ends up being a like required deload. I actually physically, like muscularly, like mentally, psychologically feel still good to train. But now this is kicked in, just kind of completely out of the blue. I'm like, like there's just something to that pulsatility of 5 weeks. And then, yeah, you need to take some time away. But I'm managing it at the moment, at least.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's first and foremost great to hear that you're still able to manage to get a workout done, feeling things out. That's also the way that I went about it. Because it was also this time quite painful. I was just on my way to the gym and I was supposed to do a back session. And sometimes for me on the back side of things, it just comes and happens out of nowhere. Like this, for example, I was just walking towards the gym and I didn't move or make any kind of drastic quick movements or anything. Like it just popped and flared up, and then all of a sudden there was a muscular contraction and was painful. And I still went ahead and did the back session, which then turned out to not be the greatest decision after all, because I think that it made it worse. Because most of the time when you're getting warmed up, you can push through it, but then once you cool down again, it sometimes gets worse even. And this was the case there. Then the next day I still went in and did chest, but with some slight modifications, so that everything where I had some kind of back stretch going on, even like going into an arch or so was simply not possible, but I was able to manage to work around it just fine. And then the next day I still went in there and did some legs as well. And after that took a rest day. So yesterday was my rest day. And instead of training back here today, I was then switching things around, did my push session, planning and doing a back session tomorrow. If it's not any better, I will probably then do the leg session and then do the back session when I'm in London. And also there, it's kind of going in there, relatively speaking, listening to your body, what it is that you're capable of doing. And especially when it's a muscular thing, I have the feeling, it's often that you can very much rely on just listening to your body. When it may be something, I don't know, even cartilage damage or so, it's something that you don't really feel that much necessary because there aren't really as many pain receptors there most of the time. And there you have to just be careful. But if you are experiencing pain around the joint, most of the time, things are very inflamed by that time.
Yeah, it's a strange one because if I hadn't spoken to Mike, I don't really know what I would have done, because especially on Monday, it just felt so like, it was scary actually, like to the point where I was just like, man, this feels really bad. Like, what have I done? Yeah. Like I was struggling to move around. Like like
Steve,
if
I just have to laugh because we were basically in the same situation. I was having a hard time breathing and also moving around, and all of this happening at the same time the week before actually the London get together, where we are planning or wanting to plan and doing the hardest leg session and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, God's sake. Yeah, it's just typical, isn't it? That's what I was thinking. I was like, typical. But yeah, I was like struggling. Like I couldn't sleep I still can't sleep in certain positions, and moving around. Like I can't, like bending down to like pick up Ada would hurt. So, but that's why I'm like, if I hadn't spoken to Mike, I don't know what I would have done, because I was like concerned of making it worse. But when he was like, hey, actually training legs, I think could even potentially help like release it, make it better. And obviously I told him my symptoms, how it occurred. So he's not, I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in depth about what he thinks was the cause or lead to it. But the fact it seemed to continue to get better is, I'm hopeful, and it shouldn't get any worse today because it's upper body. So I'm just hoping I can, again, prolong it enough that it's in an okay position to be able to train on Saturday, because I think Saturday is going to be so much fun.
That's exactly what I was trying as well. I was just going in there with a mindset of like, I just don't need to make it worse. If I can slightly improve up until Saturday, I'm just fine. I can work around it, even if I have to skip a back session or so. Main thing is that I can train, and I'm not just standing there while other people for like 2 hours, 3 hours are working out around me.
You'll just be like, go around to each person, push harder, slower, control. Shouting at everyone. But man, it's super frustrating. Particularly these, actually yours is did you say yours is muscular?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I was going to say, like for me at least, it's like the muscles are fine. It's just the joint, whatever's going on in there is not fine. So it's kind of like, if I can work around that, whereas when it's muscular, like you can't even train your back without it basically flaring up, because it's like, hey, it's just going to spasm or something.
Yeah. No.
Apart from that, how's your gaining been going? How's body weight moving up? How's that been trending?
Yeah, it's going up, and I slowly get to the point where I'm starting to get uncomfortable in my face once again. I don't know how it is with you, Steve, but I have certain body parts where I can just like feel that I've then gained. Of course, right? It's obvious because you're gaining body fat, but I can especially feel it always in my cheeks, and it impacts me the way that I talk, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. At least it's something that I can feel. I don't know whether other people would actually then perceive it as such. And I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, I don't really like it that much anymore. And I didn't really have the feeling that my performance has increased substantially over the past couple of weeks now. To be fair, though, of course, as everyone who's listening is remembering, everything from August up till like basically end of October was full of different events, wedding, traveling, so honeymoon, 3 different tattoo sessions, then the infection, skin infection, etc., etc. So I have to be realistic about how much progress it is that you then can make in such a time frame. And in the end, I'm now at a point where it's just more about kind of having fun in quotation marks, still, of course, being concerned about making progress. But it's not that I would be massively concerned if I were to relatively stay the same. You know what I mean?
It's just interesting. I heard, I think it was on Dave McConey's podcast with Eric Helms, and Eric was saying just like how for the amount of time he's been training, and I mean, bodybuilders will talk about this often, like the same stage weight, like over, like you could take 3 years off, be the same stage weight, but you could have been just like maybe a little bit more conditioned, but similar condition, but you just look better. It's like an amount of muscle mass that like wouldn't show up on tape measurements, like doesn't show up, but visually you can see it. Maybe it would show up on like, I don't know, like a DEXA scan or something like that if it was very like done very well. But like it's we're trying to gain such small amounts of muscle mass potentially at this point. You never really know until you do diet down and do that it's like, again, you can't focus so much on, hey, PRs all the time and doing that sort of thing. I think that's kind of where your head is.
This is exactly it. That I'm not so much concerned about, I don't know the numbers anymore when it comes to, I have to make progress, I have to add a repetition or anything alike, because I kind of know that I'm crossing a certain threshold of intensity that then leads to a hypertrophic stimulus. And if I do this often enough, I will very likely grow. And that's why also we have that new scientific evidence about kind of the surplus as well, which further adds to the case that the surplus is probably not as much important as the training intensity. So you have to provide the stimulus, and it's easier, of course, to provide a progressive stimulus with more fuel in the system. And this is, I think, why a surplus may be beneficial, because you have an easy time recovering. You have also an easier time of getting away with suboptimal things that if you are just hovering around maintenance or even in a deficit would actually lead to then detrimental outcomes. Perfect example is something like sleep deprivation. If you're sleep deprived in a surplus, you may not even notice it as much as if you are in a caloric deficit, for example. And that's why I think having a surplus may be beneficial for the act of gaining muscle mass, but the surplus itself, so how much of a surplus it is, isn't as important.
Yeah, it definitely helps. It's actually funny. Bill Campbell asked me to write a piece for him, and I've got to do another piece about ketogenic diets, but the other one was like a surplus for rates of gain. And I kind of made this case of the more growth potential you have, the more you could benefit from a larger surplus. But if you have a low growth potential, if you don't have a surplus, you could quite easily hold yourself back. And there's many things that go into growth potential. One of them being like, how good is your lifestyle, your sleep, those sort of factors. So it's like, even if you're not doing the best outside of the gym, the surplus is still going to help you. It's just, you could be doing so much better, and maybe you need to look at other things. I
like that approach. And I've never really thought it like this, like X equals, and then you have a formula that is made up of several different factors, where X is then the growth potential, basically.
Yeah, I essentially talked about training age being the most obvious one, but then there's everything outside of that, like how good is your nutrient timing, food composition, like the smaller details that eventually add up to be something, like the smaller principles. Like, are you hitting your protein consistently every day? Are you taking care of sleep, stress, quality training, and also pushing your training? Like, are you pushing training volume, intensity to the point where you're exhausted now and then? Those sort of things. Yeah. Because if you're just like trudging along and you're like doing everything, like your growth potential, even if you're a novice, if you're not really like taking care of other things, you're not going to be having as good of growth potential as you could.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. And just to go back to what it is that I said, I still want to, of course, improve and get better and look better. And I think that I have still many years where I can do this. We have lots of examples that you can grow for a very, very long time before you can actually then, I don't know, see that the biological age takes the best of, or gets the best of you. But at the same time, mentally speaking, I'm getting more and more relaxed each and every single year that passes. Also, when it comes to taking rest days, for example, I'm getting more and more relaxed about this. In the past, it was always like, even if I had one rest day, it kind of caused anxiety. And now it's just, I can easily, with my split that I have of push-pull legs, take like 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. Where in the past, because it was not matching the Gregorian calendar, and even though that I'm always a stickler of saying like the Gregorian calendar doesn't really matter for training and nutrition, I'm someone who is sometimes, I have to say this, a little bit fucked up when it comes to structure and routine, that even this, if it moves in a certain pattern, and that pattern satisfies me, and that's why it has to be like this. This is also why I think sometimes it's a little bit harder for Katie and the kids around me, because it has to, it is like a tick, Steve. Certain things have to be done in a specific way in order to satisfy me. And it's not like a crazy. Do you know Monk, the TV show?
No.
Okay, Monk was a detective, and he had like a massive tic. Like he needed to do things in a very specific pattern, and if he didn't do this, he needed to first complete that pattern before he could be able to move on to something else, like a very much psychological
OCD.
Disease.
Yeah,
but to very extreme, like medically extreme levels. And it's not like this. I can easily get away with not having done things my way, but in the past, it stressed me out more so, and that's why I needed to actually then fit into those 7 days, and I wanted to always have that one training day on that specific day, such as, I don't know, chest on a Monday, which obviously wasn't always the case, right? And I never really was kind of the bro who needed to do chest on a Monday, but just as an example, to satisfy the pattern and the structure in my head, which is ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah, like you have to switch off this light and then turn off this computer and then switch off this light and then turn off the camera.
Yeah.
Like there has to be an order, and you have to do it in that sequence before you leave. I totally get that. But even I do think a part of that is a trait that you see in very successful people, because I think you can go obviously too far the other way where you're just too relaxed. I can just, yesterday, you'll relate to this, I think, Pascal, maybe some of the listeners. I was told there was going to be a package delivered basically when I'd normally go to the gym. And I was like, I want to be here for this because I don't want them to leave it on the doorstep. It's like not the cheapest thing, and I don't want it to be stolen or whatever. I wanted this package. I was like, I'll stay in and I'll push my session back a little bit. But I stayed in, I pushed it, and I was like, this window is now past the time it was meant to come. I've missed my session. I've pushed it back. And I just got, and I kept like looking outside. Where's the post? Like, where are they coming? I was so pissed. And I ended up like training basically, I don't know, what was it, like 4 hours past I normally would. And
4 hours?
Yeah, I was just I was so annoyed. I basically had to push it back like one meal basically in the end. And I was just so annoyed. I was like, why am I annoyed? Like it doesn't actually matter, but I was like, I like training at this time. Why? And I actually stayed in for nothing because it is meant to come today. And now I'm like, oh, fuck it, I'm not staying. I'm just going.
I can very much relate to that, Steve. I see it so much, and I could be the same person such as yourself in that situation. Let's take a short break and then continue with that discussion though.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
On that note, because I don't have to get up that early in the morning to get my training session in. I do it. I justify it because I can always then say that I want to have breakfast with my family and all that kind of stuff. But it's probably also more because it's routine. And it has become an ingrained pattern of mine that I like, that I do enjoy. And that's why I don't want to get rid of it. Because I could easily train at 9 when everyone is out of the household as well. And I still had the chance of having breakfast with them, right? I mean, it's kind of the same principle there as well. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see it as necessarily a bad thing, because in many ways it satisfies me, it helps me, and also it allows me to be as committed and as, I wouldn't call it disciplined, because I don't really see any kind of discipline. Well, it doesn't require me to be concentrated and disciplined in order to stick with that. It's just who I am. But it allows me to just get shit done, because that's who I am. If I have a certain sequence, a certain pattern in my head, then I just execute on that, and then it's done.
Yeah, it's because I think it even relates to, what was I going to say? Because it comes back to, I don't know, if you have abs or carbs or something in your routine, something that people would often skip. I don't skip that. It doesn't get skipped. I do it. It's on the plan. Like, so it like some of this, like taken to an extreme of you have to do things in a certain way can lead you down the wrong path where maybe you need to take a rest day or take a day off when something's cropped up because you're under recovered for whatever. But at the same time, when you are strict to a plan, it makes sure you get shit done, even when you don't want to necessarily do it or what have you. Like, it's not a fun thing to do in the routine, but I'm like, hey, I'm doing it. It's in the plan. I'm logbooking it and I'm taking it forward. And I think so long as you have that skill set, which it sounds like you've really developed, and I am trying to develop better, of like not just pushing for the sake of pushing, knowing when to also pull back. So like with my back, had Mike said, don't go and train, I would hope I would have like the maturity to not have trained. And I think I wouldn't have if Mike had said that to me, because I know and trust him and I trust his experience and knowledge. But it's like when we said last time, when we're sick, like if we can go and train while sick, so long as it's not like preventing us like below the neck or whatever, we're going to go and try, even if it maybe makes us worse, because it might not make us worse and we might be able to get good training in. So it's like, if you don't have that mentality of whenever you're sick or whenever something crops up, you're never going to get shit done. Whereas if you have a little bit of that, I think it can drive you to success, but you have to have that level of maturity to pull back when you should.
Which isn't always easy, to be fair. And I think that bodybuilding, at least, which then also directly carries over into self-employment, has taught me a lot when it comes to work ethics and just getting work done. Because bodybuilding and self-employment have those things in common. No one is doing the job for you. And there's no way around but doing what it is required from you in order to see the results that you desire. And if you don't, then you won't really see the results. And this is why I think that over the past years especially, it has ingrained so much and so much deep down inside that I can't even recall the last time that there was something that I didn't do and just complain about it because I didn't really want to do it. I can't really recall. And I do recall, though, that in the past when I was younger, there were several times where that was the case, where I was procrastinating, or was just complaining and moaning about it. And then time just flies by. And then all of a sudden you're at a position where you can't really do the work anymore because the time is over. And when it comes to just work and also bodybuilding and training, I can't recall when the last time was that I didn't do what I was expected from me, from myself. No one is expecting anything from me other than myself.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that probably relates also to our, and I think you've definitely got so much better over the past years, and I have, but I need to keep getting better, is like being able to pull away from work too. Like in terms of like taking, I think your family basically.
I just wanted to say that's
why
a
I
big
have no
reason.
problem.
Yeah, and I think that you would be in the same position if you had kind of kids at home, and so because if you don't, then your wife is going to leave you anyway, right? And you have two options: do you want to spend time with them, and also quality time? Because in the end, do we really have to work 24/7? Probably not, you know. And at the end of the day, I think the purpose of life is to procreate. That's just my opinion, because this is biologically just the force and drive behind life, to procreate. And other people may have other opinions about it, but especially when you take that into consideration, you have a life that is short. And I've been thinking about death and passing away a lot over the past, especially weeks and months, which kind of bothers me and concerns me a lot, because I fear to not be here to then see my kids grow up. And before that, you had a limitless amount of time, so to speak, right? And yeah, I don't know. It is, I think if you then have a family at home, it makes things easier to then draw or get yourself away from work and focus on other things. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I even noticed this as like being in a relationship versus not. I'm sure you noticed that when you were just with Katie versus not. Like when you're single and you work from home and you're self-employed, like you can just put everything in. I think that's where it's happened to me, where because Charlotte works so much, as I've mentioned probably too many times on this podcast, I just end up having the time. But even like, it's great having Ada at home, so then I can take her out for walks. It forces me to take breaks and kind of do these sort of things. But I've got better at I don't work past, I try not to work past a certain time, those sort of things. But I would like to I'd like to live life a little bit more and like travel and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes work can be like almost an escape to ignore other things that you aren't doing in your life, I think sometimes. And I hope that I don't fall into that, but I think sometimes I do, because it's almost easy now, like to just keep working and do something that is related to work.
Sure.
Anyway, I don't know where that discussion was going. I don't even know where it came from, but just us as meatheads finding the balance a little bit. I think you can relate that so easily to dieting, by the way, and comp prep in particular, because I look at someone like a good example is Dirk, who I've spent time with as well. Like he's a chilled out dude. And I think that just plays in his favor so much with his dieting. And I've heard about his and Alberto's relationship and how he very much like Dirk, it knows his body. He knows maybe when he should pull back, and like they have that. Whereas if all you have in your head is like, I'm a robot, push harder. And kind of actually a good example of this was Mike Israetel, where he talked about his prep, where he just plowed himself into the ground. Doesn't lead to the best result. You have to listen to feedback and again have that push and pull. And that's where I think the elite come out, where they can do both. They can, when they need to, push it, but when they don't, they're really good at chilling out. And having that level of both is like, that's the objective to try and get to with everything in life. I think like that leads to the nice complementary middle ground of, I guess, probably like SFR, like the stimulus can relate to whatever, enjoyment, benefit, whatever. And then the fatigue can relate to cost, whatever you want it to. There's got to be some sort of, eventually you find this sweet spot for yourself for whatever given task.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see things, happiness, especially like a roller coaster. You will always have some highs and then it's going downhill quickly again. And you will probably never be at your peak of happiness because there's always something else that you desire, especially now also with social media, when we're just seeing how other people live their life, living the life that we desire as well. And also then with, of course, living in a geopolitical environment that is very uncertain, global warming, wars, geopolitical conflicts in general. I think inflation, of course, as well. I mean, there are so many things that that give flame to the uncertainty that you or us, we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, which then also makes it hard to stay optimistic, live a happy life. That is then, because you don't want to be ignorant to what is going on around you. But at the same time, if everything that is going on around you is filled with negativity, that's also not a good thing. And the only thing that you then can do is also just be aware that life will end at some point, hopefully not as soon. However, we've been doing this since a long time now, Steve, like being online coaches and also having talked to several different people and athletes, and even had them on the podcast who then passed away over the past couple of years. Right? And it just puts things in perspective, because I know we are tending to forget about that our life will end at some point, and everyone is hoping that it's not going to be tomorrow, but we never really know. And then by that time, everything will be in vain. Everything that you've been doing doesn't really matter. Like complaining about taking second place at a bodybuilding show doesn't really matter at all. I think everyone who is in a position where they know that they are going to pass away, they would immediately exchange it for just continuing to live on. Right? And everything else becomes unimportant.
Yeah, this has gone deep, hasn't it?
It has.
This has gone to a deep.
It's like I said, I've been thinking about death so much because it also kind of freaks me out so much. I don't want to die, and it's something that I'm very afraid of, to be very honest. So yeah, and this is why it concerns me, and I'm thinking about a topic like this a lot. And when you then see, what was his name again? Craig Toth, who that natural bodybuilder who also passed away just recently. Yes. I didn't know him. I just know his name. And then there have been people that we've even interacted with as well, also passing away, even though that you've never met those people in person. Due to social media, it feels as if they are in your circle. And that makes you realize that it can just hit and happen to anyone. And especially also one of our listeners, I know that he overcame a cancer, cancer in general as well. And all those kind of things, if you then have a list of mortality risks, especially in Western society or globally, heart diseases are at number 1. Cancer is, I think, 2 or 3 or so, and it can easily happen to anyone. The only thing that we then can do is try our very best to take care of ourselves, and that we are then also taking care of our nutrition, taking care of our health in terms of then training, then also pre-measures, so going to the doctors on a regular basis, just checking things, especially when you are taking anabolic steroids, for example, getting some blood work done on a regular basis in order to live, hopefully, a long and healthy life, right?
Yeah. I think this, you mentioned ignorance to some things. I think it probably depends on the person a little bit, because when this topic comes up, it really turns my head to not a good place. And I've noticed it whenever this topic comes up. Even now, as you started speaking about it, I was like, I do not like this. Like, I don't like thinking about my mortality. It essentially relates to my, back to the start of the podcast, my lower back, where people are like, welcome to your 30s. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I refuse. And really, the only sign of aging that I have that's very obvious to me is my hair, because it's going gray and it's receding. And I even actually really recently, I've been like touching it and I'm like, man, I could just feel it really thinning. And I'm like, man, I'm getting like old. I like look at people around me. I'm like, I'm a lot older than that individual there. I feel like I'm that age, but I'm not. And again, ignorance isn't bliss for sure with aging, because if you just ignore it and you just go through your life, just living it day in, day out. And there's for sure times in which I do this, probably too much of this, where it is just, hey, I go to the gym, I do my work, and I just keep going. And like, good things will happen if I do a good job at these things. But it's like, yeah, but what's the plan? Like, what's the future hold for you? Yeah. What do you want to do? So I have also been thinking about these things, and they stress me out. I'm not going to lie, because I'm like, should I be like, I don't know, fuck it all. Like, just drop my career in the fitness industry and I don't know, go and do something really different and travel the world and I don't know. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's the definition of a midlife crisis. And we are starting to slowly get to that point.
It probably is.
It could be, right? It could be. Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel the same way, and probably even more so than you, Steve, because I'm a little bit older as well. But of course, you are becoming much more aware of your mortality, especially because you're getting to. Before that, it was always something you weren't really ever concerned about your health, because the risk of you getting something is fairly low. But when you're getting older, I don't know, intestinal cancer, it's not that common when you're 20 years old, but it's getting increasingly common when you're actually then getting into your 40s, 50s, and things like these are concerning, and it's starting to be something that you are just thinking about. And now for the listeners, maybe those of you who are older feel us or feel me in that moment right now when I'm saying this, and some of the younger listeners are just like, what the hell are they on about? And that's totally fine, because we've been in that situation as well, right? But it is definitely something to think about, which then also, to bring it back to nutrition and also training, has changed the way that I look at these things as well. So training wise, for me personally, it becomes more important because I want to stay a fit and healthy individual. Now, you can make the argument that bodybuilding isn't really meant to be or develop you into a person who is very much fit. In comparison to other sports. Of fit. Yeah, exactly. You may appear fit, but probably the fitness is actually fairly low in comparison to others, but you're still doing something. But especially around nutrition, things have changed quite substantially for me personally, I have to say. I'm very happy that it's something that I've talked with you about as well, Steve, that I've gotten so much more mature and I have gotten and developed a much better relationship with food. But for me personally, I'm even more so putting some emphasis on healthy meals now because I know how important it actually is.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think probably wouldn't, and this does, you can even relate it to what we're talking about here. You kind of see this with the older lifters, look at the younger lifters and they go like, you're going to regret that when you're older, like the way they lift. I don't know how much truth there is to it. It depends how badly that person's lifting. And I don't know, even like physios, I know will maybe agree or disagree with like, can there even be poor technique or something, like to what degree? But like the body is resilient, of course, but it's just one of those things you hear, right? But certainly how you eat, and things like smoking, drinking, like those very obvious ones. I imagine virtually all of our listeners are doing very healthy things already. And I'm glad that I've lived, I think, for most of my life, a very healthy life, especially as an adult when I'm in control. Like, I think I've actually done a good job of making sure I eat fruit and veg every single day and plenty of it and taking care of those things. But yeah, it can definitely, and I know individuals who think about this probably even more than what we have spoken about it here. And I could see it being crippling, where they're worried to even do things. And I think that's when it becomes a problem, if it stops you living your life, like where you're like scared to, I don't know, get on a plane, for example, like, if, like for the fact that the rational individual wouldn't look at that as a risk, but if you start being unrational about these things, I think that's where it probably gets a bit like, you're thinking about it too much. Some ignorance, please.
100%. And this is also something that, of course, Katie is a little bit older than I am, and she has those fears and thoughts as well. But exactly what you said is what she's saying as well. You can't be just paralyzed by it, because then you are basically already dead. You're just, though, a living being that is already dead, because you're not really living anymore. We are really going down a philosophical route here, but it is true. It is true. If I'm very honest with myself and taking a look at my life right now, I'm getting up, I'm going to the gym, coming back home, spending a little bit of time with my family, which is also, of course, limited because they have their obligations as well. And then I'm sitting in front of a desk the entire day up until the point when they are coming back. This is kind of like 90% of what my year looks like. Now, I don't need much. That's very important to also note. For some people, this is the definition of living the most boring life. And for some others, such as myself, I like it, but I could also see myself living a different life, for sure. But then the question is always like, is it romanticization of things? Where it's like, all right, yeah, the grass is always greener on the other side. Because I couldn't really be satisfied in just always constantly being on the road either. That's also not me. But it just puts things in perspective, of course, of what it is that you're doing, if there isn't more to it other than just like sitting at home, working and doing then training and nutrition, even though that it fulfills you to a very much significant extent. Aren't you missing something because you're so caught up with that process that maybe you're ending up in regretting that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I actually reflect on this quite often when I take Ada out for a walk in the middle of the day, where I'm like really grateful that I can do that, where I can go out just in the middle of the day. It's like other people are at work, like Charlotte's at work behind her desk, stressed out because she's working for this CEO who demands so much from her or whatever, or manager. Whereas I'm like, hey, I can take this time in the middle of my day to walk our dog. And how great is that? And I can come back. And I get, like you said, I get to help people online better their lives, their health, their well-being, their confidence, their physique, their results, even their coaching, potentially, their career. And that's awesome. And like, I'm not a super stressed out individual. I get to like take care of all my food. I get to eat what I like that achieves the goals that I want. I get to train when I like, really, and train hard. And I can take as much time as I need if I want to. and like I can chill out and watch some TV. The thing that I know I'm missing is sharing more of that, because it's very isolated, and I want someone apart from this bitch behind me to share that with a little bit more. Just being very honest. Like I want, I crave, like I'm very introverted, and I don't need a lot, but I need a little bit more, I think, to fully feel a little bit more fulfilled. But I am very grateful for the life that I live, for sure, because when I reflect upon it like that, it's a super great life.
And that's also the reason why I don't want to die. Because I'm so grateful for the life I'm living, actually. And I want to actually have the chance to live it for as long as I can. And those things that you said even there is, I think, very important, because it's not complaining or not moaning about how miserable of a life you're living, but that people always seek meaning and seek always more than what it is that they have right now. So that's why you couldn't compare your situation to the situation of someone who's living a much, much poorer life than you, right? Because he's in a much different social and also environmental environment. And that's why he has to then be concerned with just putting some food on the table, maybe, right? But everyone has their own packages to bear. Everyone is in a different situation and is trying to, of course, progress, move forward, because that's just human behavior and human psychology. And I know exactly what it is that you are referring to. And this is, once again, I don't blame you for it. I don't really want to be misinterpreted by what it is that we are saying or so. And it's just normal human behavior, right?
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I can think of to say now is, with the few minutes we've got left, we haven't spoken about anime. And I've got one thing. I'm like, what anime have I recently watched? It was Invincible.
Oh, yeah,
Second
yeah,
series.
From Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I quite like it.
I mean, so when I was still having a little bit longer hair, I could have easily been bald Omni-Man, rather,
yeah.
And not bald Omni-Man, but Omni-Man, because I was actually getting a little bit grayish here. Here on my wedding day, I was actually pretty much looking like Omni-Man,
but not as big of an.
Not as jacked, unfortunately.
Oh, not as jacked.
And I couldn't fly, and it's a decent one. Have you already watched the second season?
I'm like 3 episodes in or something, because they're long episodes too. They're like 40 minutes or something.
Because
minutes.
I haven't watched the second season yet. So I don't know how it is.
But I also, did you watch The Boys on Amazon?
No.
Oh, that's quite good. That's fun.
I heard. Maybe I should do it at some point.
I think you'll like it. It's super fucked up. It's
also
it's
pretty
funny.
Dark, right?
Yeah, and Homelander's, he's so great. He's such a great character. I love that. Yeah. Like, I love and hate him. He's just so fun. It's just, I think it would be right up your street, actually, thinking about it now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe I should watch it then when I'm actually coming over to London, because we have Amazon Prime, so I could download it onto the tablet and then watch it even on the plane, which is good, because sometimes you don't even know what to do with yourself while you're sitting on the plane.
Yeah, it's actually great having, and it's better to have it on a tablet. On a phone, I've done that a few times where I've watched like some stuff on the phone, and I'm like, man, it's just such a small screen. Like, I'm glad I can, but it's not quite, it's not ideal.
No.
At least that was a bit of a lighter note, because that felt, I feel a little bit traumatized now. No, I'm joking.
Traumatized by the Improvement Season podcast.
I'll be interested in the comments. Because I think a lot of the people that listen are also around our age, and maybe even similar in terms of the career that they're doing or their aspirations. So I hope it's relatable, and I'll be interested to hear other people's inputs.
Then that's all right. I mean, we've been recording the Improvement Season since now 2017 on a weekly basis. And if there's then one episode that the listener can't really relate to that much or doesn't really like that much, I think that's all right. And the streak is still fairly much up there. It's kind of like MyFitnessPal entry, Steve. How long is your entry now?
Oh, geez. I don't even...
How many days?
Let's have a look.
It's definitely longer than the Improvement Season podcast is running. That's for sure.
Where does it even show? Oh, there you go. Oh, God. So I'm almost at 4,000. 3,900.
See,
and
people
11.
can't even do the math in their head that quickly to figure out how many years that is.
No chance. I mean, it's over 10 years, so it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
You don't track as the same way anymore, do you?
No,
Or do you?
so mine is, to be fair though, Steve, because it isn't nearly as impressive as yours, it is only at 2,981.
I mean, it's still a
But to
lot.
be fair though, for a long time, I've been using FDDB, which is a German database app, years before MyFitnessPal was available and also had a good entry list or kind of database in Germany. So probably we are close and similar to the streak that we've been running there.
I remember being in Panama with Charlotte, and the internet wasn't as available as it is now. And I thought I hadn't been able to log in one day and I'd lost my streak. But then the next day, I think it kicked in and kept it. So
luckily.
Yeah, luckily, because I would have lost my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I should get a reward for having logged for that, like logged into the app that
for
many
real
times.
though, that's some loyalty right there. And to be honest, MyFitnessPal isn't the greatest app and also program anymore.
No, I haven't paid for premium though, so they probably are like, "Fuck this guy."
Yeah, probably. They probably think that you're a bot or so.
Yeah, how weird is that though? That I could check while I was eating 10 years ago. I kind of find that really weird.
It is funny and also very interesting, probably, if you were to... The thing is, though, I can easily, if you were to ask me what I've eaten, like, I don't know, 7-10 years ago, I can probably still tell you what I've been eating.
Maybe I might do a vlog on it. Like, just let's go through my database of my fitness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That would be a great
weird shit.
What did you do 10 years ago in your first year of MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, cool. That'll be a fun vlog.
Yeah. Cool. Then guys, thank you very much for tuning in, staying with us, talking about death. Yeah, that's basically it. Talking about death and
life.
Concerns and life, exactly. And concerns and mental issues and tics and all that kind of stuff. And 10 years on MyFitnessPal. Very much appreciated. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I haven't really checked once again the stats on whether people have been now, I wanted to say applying, but it's not applying, but subscribing to the channel itself. If you haven't done so, if you feel like I've been talking to you directly now, head over to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You know that it helps us. We've been hearing it so often. This channel should be much, much bigger. And if you're not contributing to that, you are part of the problem. So I'm just putting it out there, right? Feel guilty now over the Christmas days. Maybe you're not getting any kind of presents, or the ghosts will haunt you over the Christmas days.
And you can do it. Doesn't cost anything.
No.
It makes our lives better.
Yeah.
Just subscribe. Give us a comment. Thumbs up. All of it.
Absolutely. Guys.
And good things will happen to you.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
No ghosts over Christmas days. And that's a positive thing, I think. You never really want to have ghosts in your house over the Christmas time.
No.
That's not
fun. Meghan Markle, was that one of the ghosts from Harry Potter? I just randomly
remembered
that name. Just
Steve,
screaming your ears.
Yeah. We are right now watching Harry Potter because Katie loves Harry Potter as well. And we've just started the movies because we started reading the Harry Potter books to the kids because it's a little bit easier on them because the movies are quite dark, right? And in the books, we can still skip very tough sections. And we just watched The Chamber, what is it called on English? Chamber of Secrets, and then also yesterday we finished The Prisoner of Azkaban, which in my opinion, my humble opinion, is the part that hooked me when I was young. This is when everything started for me, when I read the third book. The books prior to that were all right. They caught me as well, but not to the same extent as Prisoner of Azkaban, and from there on, I was hooked on it.
It gets a little bit darker.
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit more exciting.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, me and Charlotte watched all of the films like a few months ago because she hadn't seen any of them before.
It's great.
And I couldn't
You
remember
can always
them,
watch it.
Yeah, it's good stuff, especially Christmas time. It's perfect.
It never gets old, in my opinion. Right. And anyway, guys, so leave it here, and I guess I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers guys.
losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.